This is the TJ Evans Show, and here's my uncle, TJ Evans.
I'm your host, TJ Evans, with another installment of the TJ Evans Show. So thank you for joining us. Please do the social media thing and like the video. Comment down below on the topics we will be discussing and share with your friends. Do all that good stuff and also subscribe to the page. And don't forget to do that. So before we get into our main topic, which will be on the sexualization of children that is sweeping the nation for some strange reason, even though they were told that this was going to happen because slippery slope and everybody thought it was a fallacy. But before we get into that, I want to talk about, yes, we had to talk about it, the war between Ukraine and Russia. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. The only thing that I want to ask you is, do you feel comfortable with this man, former Vice President Joe Biden, leading us into a war? Or what about his Vice President, Kamala Harris? Do you think she's capable of handling the job?
I'm wondering what the United States is going to do more specifically to set up a permanent infrastructure. And relatedly, is the United States willing to make a specific allocation for Ukrainian refugees? And for President Duda, I wanted to know if you think, and if you asked the United States to specifically accept more refugees.
Okay. A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Okay, I can first. Now, we all know for a fact they can't because we already seen what happened in Afghanistan, which happened just last year. So, yeah, I'm not putting my faith in them, and I never have and never will. But I will say, for the people who believe that Donald Trump would send us to war, and the people on the left who said, well, whoever voted for Trump, they need to be the ones on the front line. Same energy, people. That's all I'm saying. Same energy. But we see that inflation is going crazy, and now we see that the politicians, including the leader of this nation, former Vice President Joe Biden, is a little worried about it because the people are starting to complain about the situations that's going on. Gas is way too high, groceries way too expensive, and you know what? It's kind of hard for people who make $30,000 to $60,000 a year to live. But you know, they want to blame it on Russia and what's going on with Putin in this war. And they have been trying to spin this narrative for the longest. And do you believe them?
You may have noticed this week that your gas prices have gone up. I want to talk to you a little bit about why. A lot of it has to do with Vladimir Putin, and there's opportunities to produce more from here. But part of this is on the oil companies. Right now, there are 9,000 approved unused permits that oil and gas companies could tap into now.
She is sitting here trying to blame the oil companies for not drilling, like the oil companies who are supposedly tycoons, capitalists who don't care about the people, who only want to make money, don't want to do the one thing that will make them money.
Production. That's why the president has been so focused on investing in clean energy technologies, so that we can rely on that and not President Putin to set the price of gas.
We're on track right now. I'm on track to be the first president in history to lower the deficit by over $1 trillion in 1 year. So I'm sick of this stuff. We have to talk about it because the American people think the reason for inflation is government spending more money. Simply not true.
Me personally, I don't believe him because I know for a fact, because my memory is not that short and I wasn't born last night. I can remember that inflation was happening before Putin even got involved with Ukraine. And because gas was at a 57% increase before February of 2022. Yeah, go ahead, figure that out. And these are the same people who was telling me that inflation was a good thing and it was going to help the middle class. Come to find out, that was a lie. Who would have figured? Me. I kind of figured that. But they're not just going to stop at just the bold-faced lies they're telling you, even though, you know, they're just bold-faced lies in your face. They also want to start propaganda, get it rolling, not just with mainstream media, but they're using TikTok and famous TikTok influencers in order to spread a narrative to the people that is just plain out untrue.
Why is gas so expensive, and why is the United States inflation rate at a 4-time decade high? I had the opportunity to ask the White House why gas down the street is $7, and here's what they said. The obvious reason: we're getting out of a 2-year pandemic. When use goes up, price goes up. But the call was predominantly about Ukraine and Russia, so how does that relate? Russia is one of the top 3 producers of oil, and it is actually their #1 revenue source. Now, with Putin starting this horrific fight between Ukraine and Russia, nobody wants to work with him and do international trade. So, with people being scared of war and limited resources, prices are bound to go up as well. For the people who can't pay $7 for a gallon of gas, there's an app called Gas Buddy that shows you the cheapest gas near you, as well as a link in my bio to donate to the misplaced refugees of Ukraine.
Isn't it great for the leader of the free world, our current president, former Vice President Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris, and the people in the White House of the United States of America will sit down and talk to the TikTok influencers over changing the narrative and controlling the people's thoughts while using an app that is funded and ran by the Chinese government. You know, the Chinese government who released a plague on the entire world, which is also funny at the same time because Joe Biden halfway came through with one of his promises, and that was to get rid of COVID, because ever since this happened, we haven't heard anything about COVID in a while. And I'm starting to think that the people who work at Pfizer and Moderna and other vaccine outlets, I think they started to notice it too, and they noticed that it was going to affect their stock prices. So just a couple of days ago, Pfizer came out and said, guess what, people? It's time to take your 4th booster shot. And this is without hearing any news about what's been going on with Omicron, and without even looking at any testing for it. And also, did you know this, people, that they came out with documents about the early stages of the vaccine? Come to find out, over 100,000 people died from taking the vaccine. Who knew? Crazy conspiracy theorists knew, because for some reason conspiracy theorists been right about a lot of things that's been going on. But I'm kind of done with Ukraine and Russia. But I do want to show this clip what Tulsi Gabbard said, and I kind of find it pretty funny. Well, not a ha-ha funny. It's more like a, oh my gosh, I can't believe America is doing this, and it's sad funny.
Here are the undeniable facts. There are 25 to 30 U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine. According to the U.S. government, these biolabs are conducting research on dangerous pathogens. Ukraine is in an active war zone with widespread bombing, artillery, and shelling, and these facilities, even in the best of circumstances, could easily be compromised and release these deadly pathogens. Now, like COVID, these pathogens know no borders. If they are inadvertently or purposely breached or compromised, they will quickly spread all throughout Europe, the United States, and the rest of the world, causing untold suffering and death. These labs need to be shut down immediately, and the pathogens that they hold need to be destroyed. Instead of trying to cover this up, the Biden-Harris administration needs to work with Russia, Ukraine, NATO, the UN to immediately implement a ceasefire for all military action in the vicinity of these labs until they're secured and these pathogens are destroyed.
When it comes down to this Russia-Ukraine debacle, I really am not picking any sides, because both governments are pretty bad and nefarious, and also they have been tied with corruption. So either way, it's a bad thing. I'm just upset that the news media actually tried to spew a racist narrative when both of these countries are predominantly white, and that doesn't make sense. But in all honesty, I don't trust no government in this situation. Not Russia, not Ukraine, not the United States government, and especially not the Chinese government. Just pretty much saying all the governments in the world just lying to you right now. All of them are bad, and they don't need to expand. We need small government. That's one of the things that was given to us by the founding fathers of this country, was small government, until recently, where now everybody, including people who used to be against government, want a large government. So go figure. But our main story, what's going on with the children today in America? Why are they being so sexualized? And if you don't believe that they're being sexualized, then where have you been for the last few years? I mean, from Pride Month being shown on Nick Jr. on shows like Blue's Clues, with shows that we grew up on, Arthur having Mr. Ratburn come out as homosexual and doing a gay marriage, with the drag kids and the drag queen story hours, which is being ran by drag queens who are also sexual predators. Not all, just a couple of them. So, yeah. And then this thing that happened on Netflix when they decided to put out a movie about stripping kids called Cuties. Now, I was pissed at this when it first came out because look at the poster. This doesn't seem like something that you would let your daughter participate in. This doesn't look like anything that you should allow anyone to watch. This looks like softcore child pornography. But yet Netflix decided to roll with this and was shocked when people didn't like it. They were shocked when they was like, this is a little too much. But it's not just a little too much. It's just too much, period. And this was one of the things that led to a bit of a back and forth between people on Twitter and on social media in general about what this was. Is this okay because they're saying that they're critiquing what happens with child sexualization? Or is it wrong because you're sexualizing children in the project where you're supposed to be critiquing? Well, apparently the grand jury came out with 4 indictments saying that, this was illegal and y'all probably shouldn't have done it. And I'm glad that this happened, and more indictments probably will be underway and more people will be arrested. I know that I believe like a couple of people were arrested at the beginning of this. It's Hollywood. There's nothing but sexual predators in Hollywood. And we know this because Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein, who didn't kill himself. Y'all remember Jeffrey Epstein? He didn't kill himself. Just need to let you know that. But back to what's going on. So I'm really happy, and I see this as a win, but still though, this was one of the things that was trying to be prevented from people on the right because it was a slippery slope. We already knew things like this was going to happen when you start letting certain deviants and perversions into the mainstream. Think about it. We have Gay Pride Parade. Now, I have no problems with homosexuals, but it's kind of crazy how that they're treated as a minority group, and the only difference between them and other people is who they want to have sex with. And my rule is, I don't care who you have sex with as long as it's not in front of me and as long as you're not messing with the kids. But that line has been crossed because now they're messing with the kids. Now they're trying to teach kids about masturbation and about different sexes and different genders or whatever they call it. And it's wrong because kids should be able to remain kids. And when I say kids, I don't mean like kids 10 and 11 years old. I mean they actually want to teach kids about masturbation at the age of 4, 5, 6, elementary school kids. And this is wrong. And I'm so glad that Governor Robert DeSantis decided to fight against this in this new bill that was passed that allows parents to know, one, what their children are being taught in school, and number 2, kicking sex out in general, like completely. And I know the people on the news called this the Don't Say Gay bill, but it was more like don't say anything about sex to little kids bill. And they still try to push this propaganda, and I'm glad Robert DeSantis put them in their place.
Seven parental rights in education, what critics call the Don't Say Gay bill, is on the Senate floor.
Does it say that in the bill?
I know that you support.
Does it say that in the bill?
I'm
asking you to tell me what's in the bill because you are pushing false narratives. It doesn't matter what critics say.
Hold on. It says it bans classroom instruction on sexual identity and gender orientation.
For who?
For
grades pre-K through 3. So 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. And the idea that you wouldn't be honest about that and tell people what it actually says, it's why people don't trust people like you, because you peddle false narratives. And so we disabuse you of those narratives. And we're going to make sure that parents are able to send their kid to kindergarten without having some of this stuff injected into their school curriculum.
And you notice what this news reporter tried to do? This news reporter tried to just do talking points, tried to control the narrative. But Robert DeSantis told him pretty much, tell the truth. That's all you have to do as a news reporter, as a journalist, is just tell the truth. But for some reason, the government and the mainstream media are now completely married, and the only thing they want to do is give us propaganda. But this is not the Don't Say Gay bill. And whatever lies that they have said on the news, I hope you don't believe it. Because they want to have sex with your children. Because there's no reason to teach kids in elementary school about sexual education, about masturbation, about these things. And you may think that this is like, man, this is just one bill or something like that, and that this is just one state. No, people are dealing with this in different states. In Texas, they were trying to open up a sex camp for kids, trying to pay kids, well, I won't say kids, I'll call them teenagers, trying to pay teenagers $100 to attend the camp to learn about sex and different sexual deviances. That's disgusting. Another one was in Kentucky. It was a sexy summer camp and wanted to teach kids from young ages, again, elementary school kids, about how to masturbate, about being homosexual, about BDSM, bondage, people, about bondage. They wanted to teach kids about bondage. And the question is, why? Because if this is one of those things, because everybody says that you're born a certain way, you can't turn gay, you can't turn straight, you can't turn transgender, you're just born that way. You're born with that sex. Then why do they have to teach kids this? If it's something that you're born with innately, that you just have in you, why would you have to teach children this? And it's to make them comfortable talking to you about it. That's the only thing I can think about. You want to have sex with children, and that's the only reason why you would sit there and talk to children about sex. Little kids about sex. How about this? We just let kids be kids. And if you think they're not trying to have sex with your kids, y'all do remember they did have a TED Talk where this lady was trying to normalize pedophilia.
I want to quickly summarize where we are at the moment. According to current research, pedophilia is an unchangeable sexual orientation, just like, for example, heterosexuality. No one chooses to be a pedophile. No one can cease being one. The difference between pedophilia and other sexual orientations is that living out this sexual orientation will end in a disaster.
I can't stand it. It's disgusting. And I really hope that everyone protects your children. There has to be in society some type of objective moral right. We have to come up to that point. But right now, since we live in the age where everything is subjective and do as thou wilt will be the whole of the law, everyone's just running around with chickens with their head cut off, trying to fulfill every fleshly need. And that's going to pretty much lead this, if not just the country, this whole planet into complete and total darkness. Just hell. So, what do y'all think? Do y'all think that, one, do you think that America should be involved in this war in Russia? Two, do y'all feel safe with Joe Biden being at the helm, controlling the country? Do y'all think that he will be able to protect us? And inflation. Do you even believe what the country and what the news media and what the government is saying about inflation? Well, I know it's kind of hard to, when at first they said inflation is a good thing. Now they're saying inflation is a bad thing. But do you believe that it's Russia's fault? Like, is it big bad Putin? And then, like, last, where are we going with this LGBTQIA plus movement? Where's the line in the sand? Can we all just agree that the line in the sand should be messing with the kids? Like, you shouldn't have sex with kids? Mind you, we're in the country where a man shoots another man who sexually assaulted his child. And The man who sexually assaulted the child got a bond, but the man who shot the sexual predator didn't receive a bond. Where are we at? What are they promoting in this world? And why is it everything going to sex? Are there more important things to think about? Y'all remember, do the YouTube and Facebook and Rumble, all the good social media stuff. Subscribe to the page, like the video, comment down below. We want to know what you're thinking. Let's converse a little bit. And yeah, share with your friends. I'm your host, TJ Evans, with another episode of the TJ Evans Show. Peace.